Today's lesson is going to involve box and whisker plots. In order to be successful at box and whisker plots, we have to review what we did last week, finding the numbers that represent the places of variation. So it says to find the IQR and the range for each set of data. So to start with, number one, we have to put our numbers in order, because they're not in order from least to greatest. So 55, 67, 70, 74, 83, 87, 94. And then I double check. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers in the original list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the next one. So the range is really easy from here. So my range is going to be 94 minus 55. So then grab your calculator. (94 minus 55 is 39. Okay, now to find the IQR, I have to know my upper and lower quartile. So here's my median. Got three numbers over here. So 87 is my upper quartile. And three numbers over here, 67 is my lower quartile. So it's going to be 87 minus 67, which is 20. Okay, next problem. I have to take my numbers and I have to put them in order. So 121, 123, 134, 152, 175. Okay, so my range, high minus low, 175 minus 121, and that's 54. Okay, my IQR, upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So I've got to figure out what those are. So right here, there's my median. Over here, I've only got two numbers. So I have to figure out what is halfway between 152 and 175. That's probably not a number you know off the top of your head. So you add them together, 152 plus 175, hit equals, and then divide by 2, and it's 163 and 5/10. And then we do the same thing over here, but this one's a lot easier because halfway between 121 and 123 is 122. So for our IQR, we have 163 and a half minus 122. And I get 41 and 5/10. All right, pause the video and try number 3 by yourself. And then when you're done, start it again to check and see how you did. Okay, so on this one, the range 98 minus 12 is 86. And the IQR 87 minus 23, which is 64. Okay, box and whisker plots divide your data into 4 parts or quartiles. The middle part of the data is the median. 50% of the data is in that box. So 50% of our numbers from our list fall into that section. That means 50% are on the outside, 25 on the left and 25 on the right. the numbers that we use to plot a box and whisker plot, we put 4 dots on our number line. We have the minimum, we have the lower quartile, we have the median, the upper quartile, and the upper extreme. So those numbers we've already had practice finding. And then we draw the box and the whiskers, kind of like a kitty cat box, okay, from there. The part in blue up at the top is the definition you need to write down for box and whisker plots at the top of page 36. Pause the video till you have that written down. Hey, how to make box and whisker plots. There are 4 steps. And so the first step is to find the smallest and the largest numbers. Draw and label a number line that covers the range of the data. So you're drawing your number line that's long enough to hold all the numbers you need. Number 2, you find the median, the extremes, and the upper and lower quartiles, and you mark these points above the number line. Third, you draw a box around your quartiles, and you draw a vertical line in the box for the median. 4, draw lines from the box to each extreme. These are the whiskers. So on page 36, write down your directions on how to make a box and whisker plot. Pause the video so that you have time to do it. 30. Okay, so here's our first example. We're going to create a box and whisker plot of the following data. We have numbers here that show us the daily visitors to the local park for 1 week. So the first thing we have to do is we have to put our numbers in order from least to greatest. So when I look at my numbers, 234, and nothing else for a while, 450, and in the 500s, 502, 530, 540, 574, and 629. Okay, now we're going to answer the questions. The lower extreme, 234. The upper extreme, 629. The lower quartile, so that means I've got to find first my median, 7 numbers. So my median is 530. On the lower end there are 3 numbers. The one in the middle is my lower quartile, 450. On the upper end I have 3 numbers. The one in the middle is my upper quartile. It is 574. Alright, so once I have all my data, I'm ready to start drawing. So the first thing I need is a number line. Now my number line has to go from 234 to 629. That's a long ways. I am definitely not counting by ones. I'm not even going to count by tens. Okay, so I'm going to count by 50s because otherwise I'm going to have a ton of numbers to write down. So my smallest number was 234, so below that would be 200, 250, and I know even with this I'm going to have to write my numbers small to make them all fit. 300, 350. Notice I'm trying to put my tick marks about the same distance apart. 400, 450, 500, 550, 600, and I'm going to have to make my number line just a little bit longer here to make 650 fit on it. See if I can erase that arrow there without erasing the whole line. Nope, it's not going to let me do it. Okay. Now, I need to plot those points. So the first one I'm going to plot is the lower extreme. So I have to think to myself, 234. Well, that's between 200 and 250. A little bit closer to this end. So I'm going to make myself a circle, but I'm not doing it on the number line. I need to do it up above it, and you'll see why in just a minute. Okay, the next number I need to plot is my lower quartile, and it is 450. So 450 is really easy to do. I want to put this point about the same height above my number line as my first one. Then I need to plot my median, 530. So I think to myself, 10, and I'm going to put it right about there. And then my upper quartile is 574. So almost halfway between those two. And then the upper extreme is 629. So right about here. So I draw a box around my quartiles right here, and I draw a line through the median, and then I have my whiskers. Okay? So now I have drawn a box and whisker. Now, what's sometimes confusing, and what you have to understand is 25% of my data was here and 25% was here. And then 50% of my data is here. But if I look at the pictures, it doesn't look like 1/4 of the picture is something. It's because a lot of the data was closer together. And so this shows how my data is spread out. Okay, now looking at this, because I can see that there's a lot more data, look where my box is in comparison with the whiskers. That means there's a lot more data to the right. That means that this graph is skewed left. Okay, here's example 2. So we have the prices of the movies at different theaters, and then we're going to find our 5-point summary and then set up our box and whisker plot. So to start with, I've got to put my prices in order from least to greatest. So it looks like the least amount of money I can go to the movies for is $5. And then $5.75. And then $6.50. And then $7, $9, and $9.50. Now you'll notice I'm leaving off zeros when I can and dollar signs just for the sake of space. Okay? So now I know my lower extreme is 5 and my upper extreme is $9.50. Okay, my median, the one in the middle, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the middle is right here. So that's between $6.50 and $7. So halfway between those is $6.75. Now the upper and the lower quartile. So on the lower side, I have 5 prices. So the one in the middle, $5.75. So that is my lower quartile. And then on the other side, I have 3 numbers as well. The one in the middle is 9. So now I'm ready to draw my number line. And unlike the last one, my numbers are a lot closer together. So this time they're between $5 and $9.50. So I'm going to count by ones. And I'm going to put a mark halfway in between each of them to help me easily see where like $9.50 is, for example. Okay, now I'm going to plot my points. So my lower extreme is at 5. My upper extreme, $9.50. My lower quartile, $5.75. So halfway between the 5.50 and the 6 lines. My upper quartile is 9. And my median is $6.75. So it's going to be right there. So then I draw my box around my quartiles, draw a line through the median, and then draw my whiskers. By looking at this picture, I can see that most of the sections are about the same. One section of the box is a little bigger than the others, so it's approximately symmetrical. It's not really skewed left or right. I can also tell that 50% of the prices are between $5.75 and $9. So half of the movie theaters, their prices are between $5.75 and $9. Okay, for the practice, work through the practice problem here. Problems 1 and 2, all the parts of 2. Pause the video while you're doing that and then start it up again when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so here's the answers to number 1. So when you put your numbers in order, the lowest number was 50 and the highest number was 100. That means the lowest test score was 50 and the highest test score that somebody got was 100. Your median was 70. Your lower quartile was 55 and your upper quartile was 75. And so when you plot those together on there, this is what your box plot would look like. Then you use that box plot that you created in number 1 to answer the questions in number 2. So for 2A, it says to describe the spread of the data. So this data is mostly skewed to the right, meaning there's a lot more data on the left side. It says what percent of the grades were higher than 75? Well, higher than 75 is just that whisker sticking out on that side. And so that section, anything out of the whisker on the right side is 25%. The IQR is 75 minus 55, and that gives you 20. Upper quartile minus the lower quartile. Okay, let's review some concepts here real quick. How does a box and whisker plot divide data? It divides the data into 4 groups, fourths. On page 38, you can see some reviews of how to find your upper extreme, your lower extreme, and your quartiles and your median, and how you would plot it on a graph. Here's another example for you. This is on page 39. It's when you have an odd number of data values. Page 38 is when you have an even number of data values. You'll use this page tomorrow on your Kahoot. If you want to work them out ahead of time, you can. But this page gives you the data. You find the 5 data points, and then you draw yourself a box and whisker. So on your Kahoot tomorrow, you'll be choosing which box plot is drawn correctly. And page 41 is your assignment for today. So your assignment for today is to take the 3 data sets, find your 5-point summary for each. And so on your answers that you turn in, I should see a box and whisker plot drawn for each of 1, 2, and 3. And then on the last one, it asks you some questions about your 3rd box plot.